Snow had swallowed the entire valley as if the heavens had emptied their cold fury onto Mesa Hollow, turning every rooftop white and every breath into fog, but even the cruel winter could not silence the desperate scream echoing across the ranch yard. A young woman, barefoot, trembling, her blue dress torn at the hem, was pinned against a wooden branding table, her cheek pressed into splintered timber as three rugged ranch hands held her down with merciless force. Her name was Cassia, a quiet girl who worked in the town bakery, gentle enough to carry birds fallen from nests, yet here she was, accused of stealing silver from the ranch, begging for someone to believe her while her voice shook like a dying violin string. "I didn't take anything," she cried, struggling wildly, but her hands were tied and the men were stronger. In front of her, inside a blazing iron forge, a long branding rod lay heating, the metal tip glowing hotter and hotter until the carved word thief shone like molten fire. The ranch foreman, Brock, broad-shouldered, cold-eyed, a man who believed punishment spoke louder than justice, gripped the handle with a blacksmith's gloves and lifted the brand, the sizzling metal steaming in the icy air. Behind him stood the ranch's matriarch, Miriam Holloway, tall and severe, her black dress fluttering in the snow-laden wind. She had lost too much in life, her husband, her cattle, her pride, and she had grown iron around her heart. To her, Cassia was just another liar, another parasite trying to live off her land's dwindling wealth. "Brand her," she ordered, her voice cutting through the cold like a whip. "Let the valley know what she is." Cassia choked on her tears, kicking her bare feet against the snow, her breath forming frantic clouds as she pleaded for mercy. She swore on everything she had left, her mother's grave, her own life, that she had not stolen the silver. But truth meant nothing here. Rumor had condemned her long before the brand ever would. And as Brock lowered the iron toward her skin, the snowstorm swirling around them seemed to freeze in place, because heavy footsteps crunched across the yard, drawing every eye toward the barn path. A tall cowboy, hat pulled low, coat unbuttoned, breath steaming in the frosty air, was approaching with the quiet fury of a storm held on a leash. This was Rowan Graves, the youngest of the ranch riders, loyal, stubborn, and known across 3 counties for stepping between injustice and those too weak to fight back. His jaw tightened as soon as he saw Cassia strapped to the table, her face red with fear and frost. "What the hell is going on?" he demanded, pushing past the workers as if they were nothing but posts in the snow. Brock snorted. "We finally caught the little thief. Figured it was time she paid proper." Rowan's eyes flashed. "Cassia wouldn't steal a damn thing. You all know that." Miriam stepped forward, unshaken. "Believe what you want, but the silver disappeared the moment this girl was seen near the porch." Rowan turned to Cassia, kneeling beside her, brushing snow from her hair. "Did you do it?" he asked softly. Her voice came out in a trembling whisper. "No. I was just looking for shelter. I swear, Rowan, I didn't take anything." Something inside him snapped. He had seen lies before, this was not one. Her fear was real, her desperation too raw. He stood up slowly, turning toward Miriam and Brock with a stare sharp enough to slice through the winter wind. "If she says she didn't steal, then she didn't." Brock barked a laugh. "Since when do you speak for thieves?" "Since the people accusing her don't know the meaning of truth," Rowan shot back. He reached for the ropes binding her wrists. Brock stepped forward, brand raised. "Touch her, and we'll brand you too." Rowan didn't hesitate, he shoved Brock with a force that sent him stumbling into the snow, the glowing brand falling from his hand and sizzling loudly as it hit the ground. Miriam gasped. The ranch hands froze. And Cassia, shaking violently, watched Rowan stand between her and the men as if he could take the whole world's cruelty on his shoulders alone. "Nobody is branding her," he growled. "Not today." For a long moment, the wind was the only voice in the yard, howling across the frozen ground. Then Miriam stepped forward, eyes cold as the winter drifts. "Do you have proof she's innocent?" Rowan hesitated only a second, just long enough for doubt to slip into the crowd. "I'll find it," he said finally. "Before sundown." Miriam's expression darkened. "Then until sundown, she stays." Rowan clenched his teeth. "She's coming with me." Miriam's voice cracked like ice. "Over my dead body." Cassia whimpered, terrified the fight would turn violent. But Rowan breathed deeply, lowered his tone, and spoke with the calm of a man who only draws his gun when he means to kill. "If I find the real thief," he said, "you will all kneel and beg her forgiveness." Silence. Snow whipped across the yard. Miriam's jaw worked, but she nodded once. Sundown. Find your truth, cowboy. Rowan bent down, lifted Cassia gently into his arms, and carried her away from the brand table as she sobbed into his coat. The ranch hands watched in stunned silence. But Rowan didn't look back. He walked with a purpose straight toward the ranch house, because if Cassia was telling the truth, then someone else had taken that silver. And Rowan already suspected who. Someone who lived closer than anyone wanted to believe. Someone hiding in plain sight. Someone inside his own house. And Rowan Graves was going to expose them, before the sun touched the ridge and Cassia's life was destroyed forever. Rowan carried Cassia into the ranch house as the icy wind slammed the door behind them, and the warmth inside made her shiver even harder, as though her body finally realized it had survived something monstrous. He set her down gently near the fire, wrapped a blanket around her shoulders, and whispered that she was safe now, but Cassia's wide, terrified eyes said she didn't believe safety existed anywhere in this valley. Rowan knew time was slipping like sand through clenched fists. Sundown was only hours away, and if he didn't find the true thief, Cassia would be dragged back to the branding table, and nothing, not even him, would be able to stop that mob a second time. He stormed toward his room, toward the one place he had refused to suspect, but the suspicion that had sparked earlier now burned like a torch in his chest. Drawers were half open, boots tossed aside, and muddy footprints led from the window toward his desk, footprints smaller than his. His gut twisted. He yanked open the bottom drawer, and froze. Inside was a small leather pouch stitched with blue thread, the same thread Miriam Holloway used to mark her family's silver sets. He emptied it onto the desk. Silver spilled out like cold guilt. Before he could breathe, a voice behind him whispered, "Don't tell them, please." Rowan turned slowly. His younger brother, Elias, barely 20, soft-faced, shaking like a guilty dog, stood in the doorway, lips purple from the cold and fear. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," Elias stammered. "I only meant to borrow it, just for a few days. I lost money gambling in town and they said they'd kill me if I didn't pay." Rowan felt the world split inside him. "So you framed her?" His voice was low, deadly calm. Elias broke. He fell to his knees. "I panicked. She was nearby when I hit it. I thought if someone got blamed it wouldn't be me. I didn't think they'd brand her, Rowan, I didn't know they'd." Rowan slammed his fist into the wall, the wood splintered. "You knew exactly what this ranch does to thieves," he hissed. Elias sobbed, but Rowan was beyond pity. He grabbed the pouch, grabbed Elias by the collar, and dragged him outside into the blinding winter light. The ranch yard went silent. Miriam and the ranch hands looked up as Rowan shoved Elias forward into the snow. "Here's your thief," Rowan said, voice echoing across the frozen valley. Gasps broke through the crowd. Elias tried to hide his face, but Rowan yanked him upright, forcing everyone to see the truth in his tear-stained eyes. "He stole your silver," Rowan continued, "and hid it in my room. Cassia never touched a thing." Brock stepped forward, bewildered. "You're lying. Why would your own brother?" Rowan hurled the pouch into the snow between them. Silver pieces tumbled out like falling judgment. "Ask him yourself." Elias collapsed, sobbing, confessing everything, how he gambled the money, how he stole the silver, how he hid it, how he let Cassia take the blame because he was too much of a coward to face the ranch's wrath. A heavy silence fell. Miriam's face drained of color as she stared at Cassia, this thin, trembling girl who had nearly been branded because of their blind anger. Shame spread across the yard like wildfire. Cassia, still weak, stepped out of the house, her blanket dragging in the snow. "I told you," she whispered, voice breaking. Miriam approached slowly, her boots crunching through the frost, and for the first time in years, humility softened her hardened features. "Child," she murmured, "forgive us, forgive me. We nearly destroyed you." Cassia's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded, because pain had taught her forgiveness was the last thing a guilty heart expects, yet the only thing that frees the innocent. Rowan stepped beside her, placing a protective arm around her as the ranch hands lowered their heads, ashamed. Miriam turned toward Elias. "And you," she said sharply, "will work off every coin you lost, every piece you stole, and every ounce of pain you caused, until this valley sees you as a man again." Elias wept silently, accepting his fate. The sun dipped behind the ridge, painting the snow in blood-orange light, ironic, Rowan thought, that the color of fire should fall on the yard at the exact moment they almost used fire to condemn an innocent girl. Cassia leaned against him, exhausted, her voice barely a breath. "Thank you for believing me when no one would." Rowan looked down at her, his chest tightening. "I didn't believe you," he said softly. "I knew you." And in that moment, as snowflakes drifted gently around them and the ranch slowly returned to life, Rowan realized he had saved more than a girl, he had saved whatever soul this ranch still had left. He lifted Cassia's chin, wiped her tears with his thumb, and whispered, "You're safe now. No one will ever lay a hand on you again." A warm narrator's voice rose as the screen faded, and for everyone watching this story, your support keeps these powerful tales alive. If you felt justice today, hit that subscribe button, like the video, and share this story with someone who still believes in courage, truth, and second chances.